Guys, if my screen is visible, please let me know. Just give a thumbs up. Is my screen visible to everyone? Please give me a thumbs up or react or raise.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Yeah, I'll just start. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Teen Debaters Poetry Crash Course. There will be sessions till the main event. We'll give you crash course and give an introduction to poetry and its all subjects. What defines poetry? Before I go into the main thing, just let me know if you guys have doubts. Please raise your hands or you can ask Jeshna. You can DM. So I'll start now. What defines poetry? Well, poetry, today as we begin our journey with poetry, poetry is one of the oldest, most powerful forms of human expression. What defines it? Well, poetry is a literary form that uses language creatively, often with rhythm, imaginary, emotions, or we can say figurative languages. It's condensed and purposeful, focusing on sound, feeling, and visual impact. Unlike prose which we use in creative writing, consists of essays, speeches, etc. Unlike prose, poetry emphasizes how words are arranged and felt. I'll just ask a question you guys can answer. It's given below. Can you recall a poem or a song that moved you? If you guys haven't answered that yet, please put it in the chat. Okay, going on to the next thing. What makes something poetic? Well, there are different elements of writing poetry. First, imagery. Imagery means vivid pictures created through words, the imagination you create from your words. Then, second is figurative language, or you can say figures of speech. Figures of speech or figurative languages include metaphors, similes, personifications, metonymy, etc. And there are many, many, many figures of speech. We'll go into that into another sessions. Right now, I'm just introducing all these things from the surface level. We'll go into deep uh, on the coming days. Third is sound devices. Sound devices like rhyme, rhythm, alliteration. They are considered as sound devices. They provide some sort of sounds. They make sound effects when you recite a poem or when you're writing a poem, such as you might have observed in some poems that these poems are rhyming with it, with like first line or the second lines are rhyming, and third line and the fourth line are rhyming. Those are known as sound devices. The fourth point, that is form. How the poem looks and how the poem flows on the page, that is known as form. When you write a certain poem or when you have observed the poems of other poets, you might have noticed they all you might have noticed they are in a certain formation, they are in certain lines, etc. And the last, emotion. Poem aims to make readers feel something. Poet is a form of expression. It makes the readers feel the emotion what the poet wants to convey. For that, there's a quote which I have written at the end. Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words. Forms of poetry. So these forms which are mentioned here, they are all like really on the surface level. We'll go deep into these forms in the next days. So please don't worry if this is like a really short introduction for the forms. Coming on to the forms of poetry. The first is free verse. Free verse is basically there is no rhyme schemes or there is no sort of matching patterns within the poems. Like example, like many modern poems, like the lines are not matching with each other, the words are not matching, it is not rhyming. Those are free verse poems. Like for example, there are modern poems and here as mentioned Walt Whitman's poems. The second type is rhymed. Rhymed means these poems have a rhyme scheme, like they are matching with each other with each other. Like for example, there's formations of poems that is A B or A B B or A B C A B C. Such types of forms of poems are called rhymed poems. The third poem is narrative. Narrative are those poems which convey a story or tell you a story. These narrative poems, the example of these poems can be ballads or epics. Fourth is haiku. Haiku is originally from Japan. It is a Japanese form of poetry. Its description is you can identify a haiku as it has a very unique form. Like there are only three lines, and the all this first line consists of five syllables, the second line consists of seven syllables, and the third line also contains of five syllables. It's a unique form of poetry, and you can find these poems in traditional Japanese. The fifth time is limerick. Limerick is also one of the most unique forms, I'll say. It first of all, these poems are funny. There are consist of only five lines, and it has a certain rhyme. It is a rhymed type of form. As you can see, A, B, B, and A. That means the first, second, and the fifth line are matching with each other. They are rhyming with each other, and the third and fourth line are different, but they are matching with each other. So haiku and limerick are unique forms of poetry. There are not much. They are not much seen, but rather above, like the free verse and narrative, they are the most common forms of poetry you find. Like for example, limerick poems are Edward Lear's poems. You can look into his poems and you find that he uses this style to write his poems. Next topic, why poetry matters. Well, poetry, there are certain points. First, it tends to capture the truth in few words. Poetry captures personal truths in just a few words. What the poet wants to convey through his poems, that can be conveyed with just mere few words on a page. The second point is it explores deep emotions. Poetry can help explore deep emotions like love, pain, joy, injustice, nature, identity, anger, sadness, and much more. All the emotions you can think of, it expresses through its few lines. What what the poet wants to share, what the poet wants to incorporate in his poems, they can incorporate their emotions in the poems. The third point, it connects cultures and generation. Poetry tries, not only tries, it connects people across time, cultures, and languages. You might have observed in your school curriculum that they give poems dating back to very old generations of authors, of poets. You can, those poems give out the emotions of those generations. They help you understand what was happening in those generations. You can understand what the poet wanted to convey in those times. Like the poetry from olden times and the from modern times are quite different, very different. But that's the purpose, right? They're implicating different types of uh, generation gap. The fourth and the last point, it enhances language and empathy. Writing or reading poetry improves language skills and emotional intelligence. It's not necessary for everyone to be able to write poetry, or not necessary for everyone to be able to understand poetry, but there is always something when you try. You can either write poems, you can either write understand poems, or you can do both. Gradually, you cannot understand poetry just from one glance. You need to keep reading it, keep understanding, keep breaking down every single line to understand what the poet wants to convey. The two main things which it helps us to learn are language skills, because it's a form of writing and understanding, and also emotional intelligence. So coming on to this, there's an activity which we have prepared. So we will compare two poems which are given. First is Empty Chair and the second is Loud Rooms. I'll recite both of these poems and then we'll try to compare them with each other according to the things we learned from the previous slides. Okay, the first poem, that is Empty Chair. I'll just recite it. In the corner, the chair remains, a coat draped still from winter dreams. No footsteps echo on the floor, just silence leaking through the door. The second poem, that is Loud Rooms. They laugh, a joke breaks into splinters. None of them hit me. My green is a paper mask, folding at edges. I speak, but the room walks away. Now, the theme is really similar in both of these poems. I'd like to ask if anyone wants to say if they could understand what theme these both poems are portraying. If anyone did understand. they can type in the chat box. Otherwise, I'll just continue. Does anyone have any idea? You guys can raise hand and tell. If not, I'll just continue. All right, I'll just continue. Okay, so both of these poems, they have different titles. They have opposite titles, but they represent a certain theme, which is loneliness. First point of comparison, that is the tone and the emotion. The first poem, that is Empty Chair. The poem one conveys quiet and soft sorrow. The loneliness is reflective and melancholic. You can see from the poem that what the poet wants to convey, it is like really still, really quiet. You can sense from the title of the poem, that is Empty Chair. That literally means it is really quiet, emptiness, soft. The second, poem 2 is more jarring and immediate. The loneliness is sharp, bitter, and uncomfortable. The atmosphere in both the poems is different. While in the first poem, the poet seems to be alone in an empty room. While in the second poem, the poet is in an atmosphere where there's everyone, there's chaos, there's hustle. But still, both the poets feel lonely. The second point of comparison is setting. The poem one uses a still empty room with a chair and a coat to represent absence, while the second poem, it is set in a crowded room, highlighting emotional isolation in a social setting. As I said, both of the atmospheres differ, but the point of feeling is the same. Third point of comparison is imagery, the imagination, or what the objects represent in the poem. The first poem uses physical objects like chair, coat, silence to symbolize memory and solitude. The second poem uses metaphorical images or abstract images like paper mask, splinter jokes, walking room to express emotional detachment and invisibility. The next point of comparison is structure. Poem 1 has structured rhyme scheme, that is AABB, and rhythm which mirrors the stillness and order of the space. As you can observe in the first poem, the first and second line are rhyming with each other. That is the chair remains and winter rains. That is AA. And the third and the fourth line on the floor through the door. That those two lines are rhyming with each other. So BB. So you can observe that the rhyme pattern in the first poem is AABB. You'll get to know more about this rhyme schemes and other flows in the next course. So don't worry about that. And in poem 2, it is a free verse. There's literally no point where any of the lines are rhyming with each other. And it is really clearly seen. Like they are, uh, the lines are breaking at different points. So poem 2 is a free verse with irregular line lengths and no rhyme, mimicking disarray and emotional fragmentation. The next point of comparison is perspective. Poem 1 feels like an observer is describing the world around them. Poem 2 is deeply eternal, showing how the speaker feels emotionally cut off despite being among people. So in first poem, po- the poet is alone. He's alone in the room. But in the second poem, the poet is in a crowded place, yet he feels loneliness, he feels solitude, he feels detached from other people. So overall interpretation for both the poems is both poems explore loneliness, but one shows it as an absence and silence, that is poem 1, and the other poem, that is poem 2, the other it shows is that a social disconnection. Either way, both of them convey the theme of loneliness. In the first poem, the person is alone. In the second poem, they are in a crowded place, yet they feel alone. So both of them, at some point, they represent loneliness, and it's an human emotion. Okay. If any doubt is there for this, you guys can raise your hand and ask, or else you can comment in the chat box. Okay. So now we have an assignment for you guys. We want you to write a 4-line poem expressing a moment from your day. It can be anything. It isn't necessary that you write in a form of poem. It can be free verse, it can be narrative, it can be rhymed, anything. But write a 4-line poem. It can be short, it can be long, however you wish. But you guys have to write a poem right now and submit it through a Google form, which will be posted in the chat box. Uh, it's 6:23 right now. We'll wait for 10 to 15 minutes for you guys to finish. I request everyone to please do this assignment and submit it through Google Forms. If there's any doubt, please let me know.
Did everybody get the link or should I post it once again? If you've gotten the link, just send a thumbs up. Show a thumbs up like this. Okay. You guys can continue.
Please turn on your cameras, everyone. Please, it's a humble request to everyone. Tiara, Ira, please turn on your cameras. Thank you. If there's anything you guys want to ask regarding today's presentation, please do so after the assignment is over. Uh, and once you guys have submitted, please just write it or inform us in the chat box. Guys, a humble request, please keep your cameras on. We need to take pictures to upload on our social media, so it would not be great if there are only blank screens. So please, it's a request, keep your cameras on. Thank you, guys. Raini, Ananya, Ira, please turn on your cameras. Alright, guys, the time is up. I hope everyone is done. I see many of them have messaged. Uh,
I have gotten 6 responses. If you guys, uh, one second. Yeah. So the time is up.
I hope everyone did try to do this.
Guys, see, it's not that you have to be experienced in poetry or you have to make it perfect. Everyone's new here. Whatever you feel like writing, you can write. If everyone's done, then we can move on to the Q&A.
Please just let us know if anyone's left. If not, we'll start with your doubts. Please just give a thumbs up. You can react with a thumbs up if you guys are done. So, Krishanu and Krishna is left, right? Also, Ira. 3 people. Okay, you are also. 2 people are left. Ira, please respond if you are doing it or if you submitted. Okay, Krishanu is also done. Ira, please just at least let us know in the chat if you are doing it or not. All right, they're not responding. We'll just move on to the questions. If you guys have any questions, you can ask us regarding anything, regarding the topic. Please just raise your hand or you can speak up.
Okay, just one second. I have gotten a few DMs asking for explanation of the types of poetry. So I'll just talk about it a little bit in detail for those of you who asked. So, see, there are different forms of poetry, but it's not limited. That's the thing. It's very vast. There are so many different styles, but we are focusing on only these what we've given here. And it's basically you just don't have to stick to one style. You can choose what fits your voice, whatever fits your mood, or even like whatever message you want to share, you can stick to that. So the most flexible one is the first one, okay? Free verse. There are no strict rules in this poetry style. You don't have to make it rhyme, you don't have to count the syllables, you just write what you feel the way you want. It can be like the first paragraph can have 4 lines and the next stanza can have like 3 lines. It doesn't matter. That's called free verse. It basically gives you full freedom, and that's what makes it so powerful, because very often modern poets as well, they write in free verse because their message is so easily conveyable in free verse. Then we have rhymed poetry. Like as the name suggests, you guys know what rhyming is, right? So it could be something like A B A B or A B B, something like that. We'll get into what these are. These are called rhyme schemes. We'll get into what these are in the future sessions that are going to be happening. But basically, these things make your poem more musical, they make it more playful, but they also add a challenge, like find making it rhyme in a particular way. It is a little difficult in the beginning, but once you master it, of course with practice, it's very fun actually to work with. And then we have narrative poems. So narrative poems are like literally mini stories, okay? They have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end. So you can think of it as storytelling through poetry. It can be with characters, it can have a conflict in the middle, it can have some emotional storyline. It's completely up to you. But you're basically showcasing a whole story instead of the usual prose manner, you're doing it through poetry. They don't always rhyme, they're not exactly free verse as well. These are basically stories that you're saying through poems. Okay. The next one is haiku. This one's it's short, it's very simple, and it's very structured. It's as Veda told us, it originated in Japan, and it follows a specific pattern. Okay. So the thing is, most of the time people who are new to poetry, right, they don't follow this um haiku method because the most experienced ones explore with it. So yeah, and then finally the limerick, it's basically the most playful form of poetry. They are short 5-line poems, that's it, with a specific rhythm and a specific rhyme scheme. So the rhyme scheme is AABBA. Okay, they're often humorous, they're quirky, they're funny, and they're great for like experimenting with your rhyming and storytelling at the same time. So just remember, each of these forms are like basically different tools for you to express yourself. Some will give you like absolute freedom, others give you proper structure. So we will experiment with a few of these like throughout the course of this 1 week, but you can feel free to explore whichever form speaks to you best. Ultimately, that's what matters. So yeah. Tiara, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question
Yes.
about the poetry. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm kind of a person who like to read the poetry, and sometimes when I read the poetry, we have a different understanding, like the writer intention to write it as to express a loneliness, but I understand it as the expression of desperate. Is it fine for having different understanding and giving a meaning to the poetry? Thank you.
Okay, that's actually a good question. So basically, you can have different perspectives, okay? You can view a poem in a different way. That's how the whole poetry thing actually shapes out, okay? So if let's say I interpret a poem, I look at a poem and I say this poem is about loneliness. But if you say no, this poem is not about loneliness. This poem is something about desperation, then yes, that is also considered a meaning, because the power that words hold when they're put together, it's vast. Okay, there, I can't tell you, so many people even now, there are these people are called critics. Okay, so they actually analyze poems, they find different meanings to poems. So if you have a different understanding, that's completely fine. You can have a different understanding, you can have a different perspective. That's what shows how well you understand it. I hope that answered your question.
Okay.
No worries. Anybody else? You can put it in the chat as well if you have any questions. Nobody? No questions? Okay, so I don't think there's going to be any other question. So yeah, I will wait for 2 more minutes. In case you want to put it on chat, you can put it on chat. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I hope you guys found this session informative. We are also exploring with poetry, considering our age and your age. It's actually a whole big world out there with poetry. So I'm happy you guys have joined us to explore this one world. So if by any chance later, if you do have any questions, you don't have to worry. We're going to be meeting every day until Friday with sessions, and we're going to cover like most of the basic topics of poetry throughout the course of these 5 days, and you have an opportunity to show off whatever you learned on Saturday. So there will be an impromptu poetry competition. We'll give you the topic on the spot. It'll be a simple topic, a simple theme. You guys will have to write, let's say, a 4 stanza poem on the spot. We'll give you time and you will have to send it to us, and you have a chance to showcase whatever you learned this whole week. So make sure you join in every day, because it will help you ultimately for the competition on Saturday. It will act as, the fundamental basis on what you're going to be doing on the final day. And you can always, if you have any questions regarding this later, you can ask me tomorrow as well. We'll be there to answer your questions.
Also, guys, I just wanted to mention that it doesn't matter if you guys have no experience or you do not know anything about poetry. That's what these sessions are for. We are introducing the topic to you, and as well as we guys, we also are exploring the poetry for the first time. We are also learning throughout the process. So the main thing is we guys are learning and we are experiencing. So please do join in for these events. And on the main competition day, you guys can just give it a go. You'll learn something. That's the thing. And you'll gain an experience about a new thing. And you learn something new. The new guy, that I think two people joined in, Bhuvanya and Priyashi. The meeting just ended. But if you guys have anything to ask, you guys can ask us. And we also have sessions tomorrow. So there's nothing major you guys missed out. If you guys have anything to ask, please ask us.
Okay, I just
Yes.
got a question from Krishna. One second. How to improve our vocabulary so that we can emphasize our ideas more clearly to the readers? So, improving your vocabulary, I'll be honest, it just comes from more and more reading. You can find a lot of poems online, like literally just go on Pinterest or Google, also doesn't matter. Just read these poems. Um, and like throughout time, as you're reading more and more, you'll find the words coming to you naturally. So just like keep reading other people's poems also, because most of the time now, after we told you like there are different forms of poetry that exists, there are the different styles of writing poetry. Poetry has different expression. That's what we did in this session. That is just the fundamental basis. Ultimately, you're going to be writing, you need words for it, which is a good question. How do we find the words? So if you want to know like the pro level poetry, it comes only with practice, only by reading. So you write a poem, then you read a poem online, compare how they are different from each other, compare how yours might have been slightly a little lower and their poem would have been slightly in a little higher level. It's fine, because even when I started writing poetry last year, my poems were horrible. But then with time, it will improve. The words will start coming to you naturally as you keep reading. Read more books, just read, keep reading other people's poems as well. And yeah, I hope that answered your question. Any other question?
Okay, so I wanted to ask a question. May I please start?
Yeah, you can go on.
I wanted to ask, can you just summarize only the main topics, I would say, of the whole session you have just uh, taught?
Okay. You did you join just now?
Yes, yes. I joined
Okay.
just now.
So we basically we defined poetry, like what poetry is. It's basically you expressing something that is not in a regular prose style, but in a more poetic, artistic style. So that's what we defined poetry as. And then we understood what makes a piece poetic, that is ultimately the words. And then we explored the different forms of poetry. So that is free verse. There's no rhyme, there's no parameters, there's no structure. It's ultimately your freedom to go however you want. That's free verse. Rhymed, you know how rhymed poems are, as the name suggests. It has certain rhyme schemes. Narrative, it's saying a story. Haiku is a Japanese style, 3 lines, 5, 7, 5 syllables. This is not actually that recommended for beginners, but still, with practice, you will get it. Then we have limerick. It's basically a funny poem. You mixing free verse and narrative together, and you. But then there is a specific rhyme scheme, that is AABBA, and you don't have to worry about what these rhyme schemes are. In the further coming days, we will be exploring what each of the rhyme schemes mean. And then we spoke about poetry as an expression, because most of the time poetry is also considered art. People express their feelings through poetry. It can be anything. We also did an activity where we compared two different poems together. So they had the same theme, that was loneliness, but you can interpret it in your way. That's completely fine. But we we found that both the poems had the same theme, that was loneliness. We compared how they contrast each other, what are the elements and everything. And then we did have an assignment where few of them wrote a poem. Um, the time is actually up for that, but you can participate in the assignment tomorrow. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I wanted to know that this presentation on the screen, will we get this PPT or?
I'm not sure if you'll get the PPT, but I think the recording will be uploaded on YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Anything else? Okay, guys, I think we'll wrap up then. Thank you so much for joining once again. I hope you guys had fun. You learned something new.
Thank you guys for joining. We'll see you tomorrow. Please join in. Bye, guys. I'll end the meeting now. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
you.